Morning all you lovely people out there in YouTube land. This is Brittany coming to you once again from Sydney. This is my second video of the day, my third video I've uploaded to YouTube so far. So my channel is still very new, and if you look at my introduction video, it kind of sums up sort of who I am and what I'm about. My second video, which if you'll see there, is I've just returned from my laser hair treatment on my face, and I think my emotions got the better of me in that one, and I still have not put on any makeup or done anything since then. So if I do look a little bit raw, that's the reason why. I'd like to think I normally present a little bit better than I do at the moment. Can't stop playing with my hair, it's just something that I do. You'll get used to it hopefully. So I thought I would elaborate a bit more on my journey. So my channel is all about my transgender experience and sharing my experiences in a hope that others can possibly relate to, maybe draw some inspiration from, also an opportunity for you to leave comments down below and ask questions about my experience, and hopefully I can answer things to help you. So once again, this is just purely my experience. It's not anybody else's. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else. So this is just my experience and how it came about for me. So I'll talk about my realization of my identity, my coming out, my commencement of therapy with a gender therapist, which was probably the best thing that I ever could have done, because that made me really understand and realise, or at least put me on the path of that realisation. Then a bit of a reflection about, putting all these pieces together along the way from a very young child to starting hormones and transitioning into the person that I am, that you see before you right now. So if we go to sort of the part, if we try to follow that timeline, and we think about when did I come out, and coming out is a term I don't particularly like too much. There was actually a really nice little piece I picked up from the Queer Eye show, where there was one of the presenters said, you know what, coming out is a bit harsh. I'm not sure the exact words he used, but this was my interpretation. You're coming out to somebody, you're kind of handing them the opportunity or the power to either accept or reject you, when quite simply it's just you. And why should they have that right to make any decisions on whether you're valid or not? Because that's not what should be happening here. So the way this person framed it is they kind of flipped it around and said, you're actually letting them in to your life, to your world. You're giving them the privilege of meeting you, the real you. So it takes that power away from them. They can't make that decision. It's like when I'll still use the phrase coming out, because when I told everybody, that's how I framed it. I just need to put this phone on silent because it's buzzing away, excuse me. How unprofessional of me. You get to know, I did say in the first ones that my videos are pretty raw and just off the cuff, right? So when I came out to people, this is what I did. First of all, it was my wife. My beautiful wife. We've been together for 25 plus years. We have been through a lot together, and this was a real challenge for us. And typically as most transgender people will tell you with their story, their origin story, excuse me, is that they knew for a long time. But I fought the feeling. It's the denial. It's the whole piece around not really accepting who you are, and there's a whole bunch of theories that go along with that, and I have my own, and that might be for another video, but let's just accept the fact that I was in massive denial for the vast majority, pretty much all of my life, not accepting who I really was and who I really am. So along the way, you're in denial, life gets hard, life throws things at you regardless, and then you make decisions on how you cope with those things. And layered with my denial about my identity, I would do self-destructive things like abuse alcohol. I would definitely overeat, and I would put on the most masculine persona that I could muster up. So I was quite overweight. I recently lost 65 kilos. I had a huge, big, what I call denial beard. I was drinking and eating like a mad person. And I covered up or tried to, not very successfully, I covered up my pain by trying to self-medicate. So I was your stereotypical Australian male, beer swilling, barbecuing, V8 car driving, yobbo, if you like. If you don't know what yobbo means, it's like, I don't know, bum or just, I don't know, like someone, yeah, anyway, look it up. So that went on for years, and it cycled through. There was times where I would try to say, right, let's get this on track. Let's regain some kind of dignity here, and I'd go on some kind of exercise regime and a diet, and I'd lose a whole bunch of weight, and I'd start to feel good about myself again. And then, unfortunately, I hadn't addressed the source of the reason I ended up that way in the first place. So what would happen is I'd just slip straight back into those old routines again. I'd lose 15, 20, I think the most was 25 kilos I lost in a month, pretty much just from not eating, which is not healthy. And then it's like, all right, well, you've done that. Let's go buy some beer and order a pizza. And then before you know it, you're back to where you were. And then you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're just depressed because you're thinking, how did I do this to myself? So because you're depressed, you go and have another beer, then you order something or cook some more barbecue, and that cycle, that vicious cycle just repeats. And the whole time, the driver of this was my denial around my gender identity. So I came out to my wife, and she said, and this was around early September last year, and she had sort of said to me, and it was a little bit funny, I'm sure at some point there was a comment, it was like, about time, it's about time you got here, I've been here waiting for you all this time. Because over the years there had been some indicators, if you like. There was a certain side of me that I would like to experiment with, express, and obviously my wife was privy to that. She knew what was going on, and it's personal stuff, so I'm not going to put it here, but I think you pretty much get the idea. So she was not shocked. What was the term? Not surprised, but a little bit shocked. If something like that. It's like, she said, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So during these periods of depression that I would have, when I would go off the rails, and I really don't like that term, I can't believe I used it, but when I suffered at my worst, my wife would be standing there beside me, and I'd go and see various counsellors and therapists for my eating disorders and my abuse of food. And my wife would say, hey, why don't you just mention your gender identity? Maybe that's something you might want to put on the table. And I'm like, why would I want to do that? Are you crazy? Like, there's no problem with that. So again, denial. I was just pushing it down, and never, ever, ever dealt with it. So I think what I might have to do here is wrap up this video, because it's coming up to 10 minutes. So I think the etiquette is if I make them around 10-minute blocks. So we'll call this, let's just call this Brittany's Journey Part 1, and then I'll upload Part 2 afterwards. So I've got to get used to this part. Please leave comments down below. My first video I saw, within hours I had 100 or so views, which was fantastic, but no comments. Leave me some comments so I know what you want to hear, so I know if I'm on the right track or not. And if you've got questions, please put them in there as well. I'm not here for the likes, but if you want to like it, go ahead and like it. I'm not here for any other reason but just to, promote normalising the trans experience. So, all right, let's call that Brittany's Journey Part 1, and we'll be back for Part 2 soon. Thanks for watching.